YouTube, welcome back to the channel. This is Real Nathan Daily, and this is another episode of the Crime Classroom. And in this episode, we're going to clarify a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation from a lot of major podcasters and quote-unquote professional attorneys. We're going to clarify some misunderstandings in reference to my position and the explanation of law. You guys, a lot of you are making an emotional stance and you're not listening. We're going to clarify that over here. What are we talking about in this episode? We're talking about premeditation. Why is this important? Because a lot of you believe that this is premeditated homicide, but you're not the only one. You guys, what does it mean for premeditation, and why are we holding on so strongly to this concept that he intended to murder Austin Metcalf? What are people saying in the comment section? What are you guys saying online, and who are you listening to? Where are you getting your facts from? I want to know the details, because we all have the same information, and you're looking at someone who's an expert in use of force, an expert in police policy and procedure, and I'm telling you that there's not enough information for us to draw the conclusion that this is first degree murder and that this was premeditated. What are the elements for premeditation, you guys? Let's talk about the definition. Premeditation, according to law.com, it's planning, plotting, or deliberating before something. Premeditation is an element in first degree murder. It shows intent to commit the crime. Why is this important, you guys? Plotting, planning, premeditation, meaning I put some thought into it, means that I prepared this entire thing. I wanted to do it. I was looking forward to doing it. I orchestrated the events necessary to take this person's life. This is the hill that they have to climb to prove first degree murder. I don't think they have enough. But why are people saying this is premeditated, you guys? This is what you were saying to me. I'm going to explain to you why your argument is flawed. We don't know the size of the knife. The size of the knife matters. For it to be unlawful and illegal, it has to be 5.5 inches long. That's the law, you guys. And if it is that long, if you're under the age of 18, you can't have it. Okay? So here's the problem with the argument. Just because you have a weapon on you doesn't mean you can't use it for self-defense. The second issue that people are bringing up to justify intent and premeditated murder is the fact that Karmelo Anthony went to the tent, a tent of the opposing team, and they are saying because he had a knife and he went to the tent and that he refused to leave means that that's premeditated murder. You guys, that's false. Where did you get that from? That's not true. Please show me the law where that's true, you guys. It's false. Okay, I need you to understand this. He had a legal reason to be in the public space. Okay, he was at a track meet. He went under the tent. According to the family, according to the information that we have, it's because of the inclement weather that he went underneath the tent. Maybe he had friends, maybe he didn't. You guys, but it's not against the law for him to be underneath the tent. That does not equate or add to the value of premeditated murder, okay? What's the third thing that they're saying is, one, Austin Metcalf approached him and said, hey, sir, you don't belong here. You're not supposed to be here. You're from the other team. You need to leave. Why did he say that? Because according to him, according to the father of Austin, Hunter Metcalf told his father that Karmelo was heckling the other team. And they went over and approached him and said, hey, you don't belong here. You need to leave. Well, Karmelo decided not to leave. Well, you guys, here's where we get into the legalese of it. Was Karmelo Anthony breaking the law? No, he wasn't. Is it against the law for him to be underneath the tent? No, it is not. Was it against the law for him to be at the park at the track meet? No, it was not. He broke no laws being underneath the tent. Now, here's the reality. Yeah, if someone doesn't want you there, you should leave, right? We can all agree on that. But here's the problem. Austin is 17 years old. He's not a grown-up. He's not in charge of the tent. He's not the tent police. Hey, I just want to say thank you so much for all your support on this channel, you guys. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I really look forward to sharing more content with you. And let's get back to it. He doesn't own the tent. The tent doesn't have his name on it. It doesn't belong to him. The bleachers that the tent was over doesn't belong to him either. What should Austin have done? He should have went and got a grown-up, a big person, an adult, maybe security, maybe the person who put the tent up is who he should have went and got and said, listen, we have a guy who's heckling the team. We don't want him over here. It makes us feel uncomfortable. Can you please talk to him, tell him to leave? That is what should have happened, but that's not what happened. What happened was Austin verbally told him to leave. He refused, and according to the witness, there was an argument. In that argument, there had to have been some provocation, and that we do know provocation occurred possibly, more likely, on both sides, but we don't know, you guys, because we don't have the evidence. We don't know what was said, even though the witness told the officer that they were arguing. The officer never asked the witness what they were arguing about and what was actually exchanged. That's poor police work, but we're not going to get into that. So what happened, you guys? Austin, in all of his infinite glory, decided that he was going to physically remove someone out of the tent. Another 17-year-old boy, he felt that he had the authority to remove someone physically against their will. And listen, I don't hear anybody talking about that. No one is mentioning that. The entire left-wing conservative mob group is not speaking on the fact that you have no business putting your hands on another person. You can't physically force someone to do something they don't want to do. It's against the law, you guys. It doesn't work like that. Austin is not a police officer. He doesn't have the authority of that tent to make decisions. He's not the tent police. So with that being said, he broke the law. What law did he break? It's assault, you guys. It doesn't matter what a person says to you. You can't assault them. Words, provocation. What's the other complaint that people are making in reference to this case? The fact that Karmelo put his hand in the bag and he grabbed the weapon. He grabbed the knife. People are saying because he grabbed the knife in that moment, he looked at Austin and said, hey, touch me and see what happens. Listen, you guys, there's a difference between provocation and there's a difference between giving a warning. But these things can be argued where? In court. The idea that someone says, I am going to assault you, I'm going to punch you. And then you, as a person who heard that threat, just said, if you punch me, see what happens. What does that mean? It means that you had to threaten me, and then I responded with, if you do it, see what happens. People are saying that that is premeditation, because in the moment he knew in his mind that he had a knife. But Austin did not know he had a knife. You guys, for self-defense, you don't have to let the person you're defending yourself against know that you have a weapon. Where did you guys get that from? See, I find it fascinating that a lot of these left and right wing, or mainly conservatives, all of a sudden have brain fog, as if they don't even know the laws anymore. Okay, so let's be clear on it. You don't have to let people know you have a gun. You don't have to let people know you have a weapon. Okay, because you'll imagine that you had to let the suspect, the offender, know that you are about to use lethal force, or you're about to use force against them. That's part of the law. It's not part of the law. Where did you get that from? You guys aren't the only ones who think that. Recently, I watched a clip on Fox with Brandon Tatum. Listen, that's my boy. I like him now, okay? He came to the channel. I think he's great. We don't agree on everything, but listen, he got this one wrong. And he's talking about the details of the case. But Brandon, where did you get the details from? Because none of us have it. Okay, what did you read? What do you have access to come to a definitive position that this is not self-defense, or this is murder and the first degree? I don't know where you got it from. And listen, you're talking about premeditation as if you have all the facts. What facts do you have? Show them to me. I want to see them. And this isn't just for Brandon. This is for anybody. Please bring me the facts and not the assumptions. Listen, I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying he's not accurate. And there's a difference.
This is a very different situation. You have a young man who brought a knife to a track meet, which is already illegal, bringing a knife on the premise of a sporting event. And then you have the person, obviously, with the evidence that we have so far, is premeditating a stabbing, because he has his hands in the bag and he's telling them, touch me and see what happens. You only need a split second to develop premeditation. So if you have a plan that you're going to use a weapon against somebody, before you use the weapon, that's premeditation. And not utilizing equal force force against a person is another uphill battle for him. Someone pushing you does not necessitate you to use deadly force against them. In no world is that legal, especially not in the state of Texas.
Now, Brandon's right about something, but he got another thing wrong. And this is the problem with people who talk about this case and they're disingenuous. If you're going to cover the law, cover it properly. What do I mean by that? What he said was correct, where in the moment, Brandon is referencing time as it relates to premeditation, saying that, hey, listen, you don't need a lot of time to determine if a person used malice in their decision to take another person's life within a second. They are saying that Karmelo had the hand on his knife. He looked him in the eyes. He wanted him gone, and he did it. That's premeditation. He had the weapon. He made the decision. He carried out the action. Well, here's where Brandon is being disingenuous in reference to this charge, in reference to what's required. You need malice aforethought. What does that mean, you guys? Malice aforethought, the conscious intent to cause death or great bodily harm to another person before a person commits the crime. Such malice is required element to prove first-degree murder. You have to prove intent. There's no way around it. But you don't know what's in his head. Guess what? None of us do, because we don't have any information suggesting why he did what he did. You have the statement he said to the cop. That's fine, you guys, but he has his day in court where he gets to tell his entire statement. We get to hear his argument. And listen, the way this thing works, you guys, criminal law and criminal charges, as it relates to being inside a courtroom, you need the elements to line up or you can't use the charge. The elements of the crime are all the little pieces that make up the charge. And if you don't have it, guess what? You don't have a charge, you guys. Imagine this. Criminal law is equivalent to like baking a cake. But no two cakes will ever be the same, you guys. I'm talking about a case. A lot of people like to compare cases, but you can't compare them. We can compare components of them. But the idea is that every cake has ingredients. You guys, that's the element of the crime. The cake is murder. The elements of the crime is that you need to prove intent. You have to prove the malice intent, that the person wanted to take the life of another person. That's the element. You absolutely have to have it or you have no cake of murder. You guys, what is happening in this moment on social media, on the news, is that everyone sees the elements of the crime, right? They see the ingredients to make the cake. But guess what they do not have, you guys? They don't have the recipe. The recipe is found in court. The recipe are all the intricate details, instructions that actually make the cake specifically the cake. So people have the ingredients and they're calling it homicide, but they don't have the recipe. They're lacking the evidence. That's the instructions. You guys, and this is the problem. No two cakes will ever be the same, and this is the issue with everybody on social media. These people providing misinformation and disinformation, you guys, they don't know what they're talking about. According to this attorney from Texas, he describes exactly what first-degree homicide is. Let's take a look. He describes first-degree homicide as a charge applies when a person is accused of intentionally and deliberately causing the death of another person. The key elements of first-degree murder includes premeditation and malice aforethought. In Texas, this is the key. You have to prove premeditation, aforethought. You can't do it on this case. I challenge anyone to point it out. It's not because he had a knife. It's not because he was present under the tent. That's not how it works. If you can't prove what he thought inside here, you don't have a case. What's the other issue? We have a Texas attorney who also breaks down the definition of premeditation. The defendant had the intention of killing the person at the time they committed the crime, and they did so with malice. With malice. That is so important. So let's talk about premeditation. What does that look like if this was a premeditated case, you guys? Karmelo would have had to have, one, either planned and orchestrated this entire event, consciously made a decision to bring a knife for the purpose of attacking the twins, meaning that he had to have had prior engagement with them. He has to have known them. There has to be a reason for why he wants to take their life, right? That's key, right? That shows us that we have motive. That's a strong indication that he was wronged in some kind of way. There was some type of confrontation in the past, and this was his opportunity because he knew they were going to be there. So what did he do? He went to the tent on purpose, armed with the idea that he was going to take the life of the twin. Not any twin, a specific twin. Which one? Austin. His plan was to take the life of Austin. So whatever transpired under the tent, he orchestrated that for the simple fact that he wanted to take his life, you guys. That is premeditation, okay? It's that simple. This is the problem I have with the case. Nobody has all the information. No one is being honest about what they're looking at. Their only concern is about selling you a bunch of lies in order to make money off of YouTube, in order to feel popular, in order to feel like they're part of the group. You have all these right-wing conservative groups, these flash mob groups, who so-called are supposed to be anti-woke, but they turn around and creating the same problem that they complain about. You guys, all of a sudden, the First Amendment doesn't mean anything to them. All of a sudden, the Fourth Amendment doesn't mean anything to them. All of a sudden, the Second Amendment doesn't mean anything to them. They're very selective. This is selective outrage, and a lot of you should be ashamed of yourself. I want to know where all this marvelous information came from out of thin air that you guys are reporting on. Where are you getting this disinformation from? It's almost as if you guys are all connected to the same ignorant satellite that's feeding you information about this case. Shame on you. And shout out to Tim Pool, who called it out. Someone who's a free thinker and said, hold on, you guys, you're rushing to judgment. We don't have all the facts. Could this not be self-defense? Is it possible? Tim called it out, and guess what? You guys drug him down the street for it. Shame on you. You guys are looking just like the left side mob that you guys complain about. But shout out to Tim Pool for interviewing this attorney that I believe lacks the character and integrity to be called one, but at the same time, attorneys can put on multiple faces and multiple masks. It's a great interview. Take a look at this clip.
So my concern is the adamant nature on the right that this is as we believe it to be. My fear is you've got 33 witnesses who've not given statements or have, and we don't know what those statements are.
Sure.
Yep. What if 15 of those tell a completely different story and say that Karmelo tried fleeing and, Austin wouldn't, or something like that? I really doubt that's the case, considering the two witnesses that are presented in this. But I do have a concern that the right is assuming that I believe there's two witnesses that gave versions of the events that are available in this police report out of 35.
Right. Listen, there is evidence that could develop that could make this self-defense, or at least look a lot more like self-defense. So if Austin Metcalf greatly outweighed Karmelo Anthony, which could be the case, right? They're reporting...
Well, right. So
I'm suspicious of that weight number for Karmelo Anthony because I think it was from an outdated ID, and teenagers grow a lot, over a short period of time. But say there was a real disparity of size and strength, and Austin Metcalf grabbed him and then said, "I'm going to beat you to death." Well, that's a different scenario then. Then there may be a reasonably perceived imminent threat of deadly force harm, because deadly force harm doesn't just mean force that can kill you. It means force that can cause you serious bodily injury, a maiming type of injury, or broken bone. That would justify the use of deadly defensive force. The trouble is we don't have any evidence like that yet. And Karmelo Anthony himself, he says things to the police, and he does not say anything like that. He doesn't say he was in fear for his life. He doesn't recite any facts that would reasonably be perceived as a deadly force threat from Austin Metcalf.
I think.
Well, it looks like I'm not the only one who thinks that. You guys, what did he say? Because listen, if you followed this man's channel and you saw his initial video about the case, you would have thought there was no possible way that this could ever be self-defense. What did he say? He said, we don't have all the information. Is it possible that information can come out to suggest that this case is not what you think it is? You guys, don't let these hustlers and grifters grift you out of your pocket, grift you out of your intelligence. Don't let them do it. At least over here on this channel, you guys will do facts over feelings. At least over here, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't operate in a place of bias, you guys. We just deal with the facts. Some of us don't have integrity, and they're going to say whatever because they're incentivized to get a rise out of you. That's what gets them clicks. That's what gets them noticed. And that's what makes them feel like they're part of this group think tank. But a lot of them walk around with their eyes wide shut. Bless your heart, you guys. He said exactly what I've been telling you from the beginning. So now go and quote him under his video and explain to him that Officer Daly already told you so. And with that, you guys, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night. God bless.